Manu Yusuf, Sky first.
Absolutely. Just wanted to ask you about Florian again, if you don't mind. Just you talked about how physically he's got fitter. I just wonder, off the pitch, is it also maybe just getting used to the country and the lifestyle as well, that he's maybe just become a bit more comfortable, because he's still a young man, I suppose, as well,
yeah.
and a big move from his own country.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the only one who could answer that question. I can only answer from my experience, being an old man, or at least much older than him, and the first few months in a different country, because it was also my first experience going abroad, is different. Your life is a bit upside down, and that for a manager is probably not the biggest problem, because I don't have to perform on the pitch, but I could fully understand that some individuals, some players need a bit of time to adapt off the pitch as well. But the biggest adaptation is if you come from abroad, this league, how intense it is. Because again, today I think even when we play once a week, you could see that Hugo had a cramp after 70, 75 minutes, and I didn't took Florian out because he played bad. I took him out because he was hardly able to keep on running anymore. And that is also a bit the situation we're in, but also that tells you about the new players we've brought in, how big of a step it is to adjust to these intensity levels.
Can I also ask about Curtis Jones? Fourth game in a row he's played 90 minutes. How much has he been maybe enjoying the responsibility? Because it felt like he really got on the ball today and was really driving the midfield in the absence of someone like Dominic, for example.
Yeah, I think that's always one of his main qualities, that he always wants to have the ball no matter what the situation is. That is 99 out of 100 times very positive. Sometimes it's also smarter maybe to stay away from the ball or not bring yourself in a difficult situation. But even if it's a really difficult situation, he had one in the corner, he was able to bring himself out of the situation and play the ball to Ryan. So I think the first and most positive thing for him is that he's able to stay fit for 4 or 5 games in a row now. And he's played indeed 90 minutes every single time. That might have to do a bit with his performance. But if you look at our bench, you didn't saw any player that is a midfielder that has played more than 10 minutes in the Premier League so far. So that's why I'm so pleased with our current results, because if we would have dropped points, people would have probably talked about the fact how many players we miss. But we don't drop points, so that's why no one is talking about the players we miss. Maybe because they only talk about how much we spent.
Mike?
The goals that Liverpool conceding, are they changing games too much now? I mean, you were really on edge the last 10 minutes at Tottenham. Again, after Wolves scored today, it seemed to take the flow and rhythm out of an awful lot of your play, and you're kind of hanging on in matches that you shouldn't need to.
Yeah. I can only agree with you. So it tells you how important goals are in a low-scoring sport, because that's what football is. So that can a moment can change momentum, and that's what we saw last week and what we saw today. Because I think in both games, till the moment we concede, it was the performance you would like from a Liverpool team. Although in the first half with somewhat ball possession, in an ideal world I see even more chances created. Again, we didn't score our first 2 chances. By the way, I completely didn't understand why the second time Maka hit the ball on the post, why that was offside. Obstructing vision, was that the reason? Okay, now compare that to the City one. But okay, it didn't went in, so that is not so important. Goals have a massive impact on the momentum of a game, and that's what's been shown in the last two games of ours for sure.
Do you think you should? But I'm sure you think you should be doing better game management. But game management wise, how are you going to be able to implement that?
Now, a way to have game management is also have the opportunity to make substitutions. So maybe to bring an extra defender in, or these kind of things. Or in last year, I a lot of times when we were 2-1 up or 1 goal up, I brought Wataru Endo in. But yeah, I already said, I don't know if everybody notices it, but we miss quite a lot of players, and that's why it's so special for these players that are fit, that they bring the results in that we are bringing in.
touched on the new signings and how you've been without some of them, and obviously you're still without Leone and Isak. But do you feel that in the second half of the season, as a whole, you'll see more from them than you have in the first, with the way that, you know, Florin's improving, Jeremy's fit again? You sort of think you'll see?
Yeah, for sure. But I think that's not only for the new players we brought in. I think if you bring in a lot of new players and a lot of players are gone, then usually, at least if I do my job a bit well, you see them playing better football after they've been a bit longer together. There's more training time, there's more playing time together, then usually they play better. And I think you could see this last season, because that team was the year before all the same with Jürgen, and last season, especially the first half of the season, I think we played some very good football. That's helpful if players are longer together. I think history has shown many times the longer players playing together, the bigger chance you have of winning something. Or if you add players to what you have, that's also a serious chance of improving. If you replace what we've done, then it takes time, and then usually it gets better after a certain period of time. Unfortunately, Giovanni Leone, we won't see him this season, and Alex is going to take a long time before we see him again. So that is all right now. You can do the numbers, how much money that is, and if you combine that with how much we've sold, that's maybe an interesting story to make.
Who's last one?
To ask again about the fullbacks, you mentioned a few months back when PSG were how much you liked Hakimi and Nuno Mendes. How much did that influence the signs of Frimpong and Kirkes, and how much are they sort of fitting into that mould that you maybe envisioned?
Now we had to make one change in that position because Trent left, and that was not ideal for me, because I think Trent has been so important for this club and was very important for me last season. So when we looked at the options in the market, Jeremy was one of the first we noticed, because he has that pace you were just talking about, similar to Connor, similar to Milas and Robo as well. So that pace is one thing going forward, but you also need that pace if you face, for example, the forwards of Paris Saint-Germain, but I can come up with many teams also here in the Premier League who have very, 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 very fast wingers. So yeah, it's definitely helpful to have them. Unfortunately for them, not always the same players have played in front of them. So they're still work in progress, especially because too many times not all of them have been available, and too many times we had to change because of load management, because players weren't able, players were injured. But bit by bit, we see players and teams improving as well, and the team improving.
Sorry, very last one.
In terms of Leeds next, I just wondered what the main takeaway, what the main learning was from that crazy game just a few weeks ago. Could you cope with another day like that?
Yes, I could, but I don't prefer to cope with another day like that. But it's part of our lives in football. We have highs and lows, so we have to accept that. What I mainly took and take from it is that we struggled a lot, or much more, when they went to a 4, when they started playing 4-3-3 in the last 20 minutes of the game. That's also when they scored their goals. Okay, the first one was another far intervention, but the second one was a real good goal of them. Third one, a set piece. But we struggled more when they played with 4 than when they played with 5. So I will definitely look at both, but especially the moment when they went to a 4 at the back.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.